Have you ever wondered what $2 million worth of family betrayal looks like? My name is Madison Sullivan, and 3 years ago, my own siblings stole my inheritance through deception. But they didn't know about the secret my grandmother left me: $70,000 in cash, and a plan that would expose their lies at our parents' 40th anniversary party. What happened that night in front of 150 witnesses changed everything. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. This is my story of how I went from living in a motel to reclaiming not just my fortune, but my dignity. The Sullivan family of Seattle was everything you'd expect from real estate royalty. My father Robert built Sullivan Real Estate from nothing into a $50 million empire. My mother Patricia stood by his side, the perfect corporate wife, hosting charity galas and managing our public image. Then there was Victoria, my older sister. At 38, she'd been groomed since childhood to take over the company. Every family dinner, Dad would beam as she discussed quarterly projections and acquisition strategies. She had the corner office, the MBA from Wharton, and most importantly, our parents' complete trust. Michael, my brother, played the perfect supporting role as CFO. 2 years older than me, he'd learned early that backing Victoria meant security. Together, they formed an impenetrable alliance that left no room for anyone else. And then there was me, Madison, the artistic disappointment. While they discussed profit margins, I sketched designs in my notebook. When they celebrated closing million-dollar deals, I was enrolling in design school. You know, Madison, maybe if you spent less time doodling and more time in the real world, you'd actually contribute something to this family, Victoria would say, her manicured nails tapping the mahogany dinner table. Mom would sigh. Dad wouldn't even look up from his phone. The hierarchy was clear: Victoria at the top, Michael as her lieutenant, and me, the afterthought who somehow shared their DNA but nothing else that mattered. Every family photo in the mansion showed the same story: Victoria and Michael flanking our parents, while I stood slightly apart, like someone had photoshopped me in as an afterthought. But there was one person who saw things differently. One person who knew that real value isn't always measured in profit margins. Grandma Eleanor was the family's best-kept secret. While everyone assumed she was just a sweet old lady living off my grandfather's pension, I knew better. Every Thursday afternoon, while Victoria and Michael were at the office, I'd visit her penthouse apartment overlooking Elliott Bay. "They don't know, do they?" she'd asked me once, pouring Earl Grey into delicate china cups that cost more than my monthly rent. About my investments, my properties, the portfolio I've built over 40 years? I shook my head. To the family, Eleanor was just Robert's mother, the widow who'd raised him after Grandpa died young. They had no idea she'd quietly turned her husband's life insurance into a fortune through strategic investments. "Good," she'd said, her eyes sharp behind her wire-rimmed glasses. "Let them think I'm just a harmless old woman spending their father's money." Those Thursday afternoons were my sanctuary. While my family dismissed my design dreams, Eleanor would study my sketches with genuine interest. "You have your great-grandmother's eye," she'd say. She designed jewelry for Seattle's elite before women were supposed to have careers. Sometimes she'd say things that seemed odd at the time. "I'm preparing something, Madison. Something important." Or, "True wealth isn't always visible, darling. Remember that." I thought she meant wisdom, or memories, or maybe some family heirlooms. I had no idea she was orchestrating something much bigger. The last time I saw her, she held my hand longer than usual. "Whatever happens, trust Harrison Blake. He's been my lawyer for 20 years. Promise me." "Grandma, you're scaring me." "Promise me, Madison." "I promise." 3 days later, she was gone. Heart attack in her sleep, the doctors said. Peaceful. But nothing about what came next would be peaceful at all. The reading of Grandma Eleanor's will took place in a downtown law office, all glass and steel and cold efficiency. Harrison Blake, her attorney, looked uncomfortable as we gathered around the conference table. Victoria arrived 15 minutes late, making sure everyone knew how busy she was. Michael sat beside her, checking his phone. My parents took the head of the table, as always. Before we begin, Harrison said, adjusting his glasses, I want to express my condolences. Eleanor was a remarkable woman. Victoria checked her watch. Can we move this along? I have a 2 o'clock meeting. Harrison's jaw tightened slightly, but he opened the folder. The estate of Eleanor Sullivan, being of sound mind and body. The legal language droned on until he reached the distributions. To my grandson, Michael Sullivan, I leave my collection of first edition books and the sum of $100,000. Michael nodded, satisfied. To my granddaughter, Victoria Sullivan Hayes, I leave my investment properties in Bellevue and the sum of $100,000. Victoria's lips curved into a smile. She always was practical. To my son Robert and daughter-in-law Patricia, I leave my personal effects and jewelry collection. Then Harrison paused. I held my breath. And that concludes the distributions. The silence was deafening. Victoria was the first to speak. The will is clear. Madison gets nothing. Her tone held a satisfaction she didn't try to hide. My mother shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps there was an oversight. There's no oversight, Victoria cut her off. Grandma obviously recognized who actually contributes to this family. I sat frozen, unable to process the betrayal. But as everyone stood to leave, Harrison caught my eye. The look he gave me was strange. Not pity, but something else. Something that said this wasn't over, but I wouldn't understand what that meant for another 2 weeks. 2 weeks after the will reading, Victoria called an emergency family meeting. The dining room felt smaller with all of us there, the chandelier casting shadows across Victoria's perfectly composed face. We have a situation, she announced, sliding folders across the table. The Riverside Development Project hit a snag. The city's demanding additional environmental assessments. We need liquid capital immediately, or we lose the entire investment. My father's face paled. How much? $2 million to hold our position. Victoria's eyes found mine. Which is why we need everyone's help, including Madison. I blinked. I don't have that kind of money. No, but you have something else. Michael pushed a document toward me. Your trust fund from Grandpa Joe, the one that matures when you turn 35. I'd forgotten about it entirely. Grandpa Joe had set up small trusts for all of us before he died. Mine was worth maybe $300,000. It's just a temporary loan against it, Michael explained, his voice unusually gentle. We'll pay you back double within 6 months, with interest. Family helps family, right? Victoria added, though her smile didn't reach her eyes. My parents watched expectantly, the weight of their stares, the family legacy at stake, the promise of finally being included in something important. It all pressed down on me. The paperwork's complex, but essentially you're just allowing us to borrow against your future inheritance, Michael said. Standard procedure. I picked up the pen. My hand hesitated over the signature line. Madison, my father spoke for the first time. We wouldn't ask if it wasn't critical. Those were the magic words, the ones I'd waited my whole life to hear, that they needed me. I signed my name with a flourish. Victoria's smile widened. The moment my pen lifted from the paper, something shifted in the room. Victoria reached across the table and pulled the documents toward her with a swift, practiced motion. Her fingers moved too quickly, shuffling pages, sliding them into her briefcase. Thank you, Madison, she said. But her tone had changed. There was something final about it, like a door closing. Michael wouldn't meet my eyes. He stood abruptly, mumbling something about a phone call, and left the room. My parents were already discussing dinner plans, as if what just happened was routine, forgettable. Wait, I said. Don't I get a copy? Victoria paused at the doorway. Of course, I'll have Michael send you one tomorrow. But the way she said it, the slight upturn of her lips, it made my stomach clench. I thought about Grandma Eleanor's warnings about trusting too easily, about how true wealth isn't always visible. Actually, I'd like a copy now. The copier's broken, Victoria said smoothly. Besides, you trust your family, don't you? It was a trap of a question. Say no, and I'd be the ungrateful sister who didn't support the family business. Say yes, and I'd have no recourse. Of course I trust you. Good. She clicked her briefcase shut. You've finally done something useful for this family, Madison. Enjoy the feeling. After everyone left, I sat alone in the dining room. The chandelier light caught something on the table, a paperclip that must have fallen from the documents. I picked it up, turned it over in my fingers. Such a small thing, but it felt like evidence of something larger, something I couldn't quite name yet. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Check your bank account tomorrow. HB. Harrison Blake? But why would he? 48 hours later, I stood at the ATM in disbelief, my card rejected for the third time. Insufficient funds flashed on the screen. That was impossible. I had $15,000 in savings. My phone rang. The property manager. Miss Sullivan, I'm calling about your apartment. We received notice that you're no longer employed by Sullivan Real Estate, which means the corporate lease is terminated. You have 24 hours to vacate. What? I never worked for... It says here you were listed as a consultant, but as of yesterday your position was terminated. My hands shook as I opened my email. One message from Victoria, sent at 3 a.m. Madison, by now you've discovered the changes. That document you signed wasn't a loan agreement. It was a complete waiver of all current and future claims to any Sullivan family assets, properties, and enterprises. You signed away your trust fund, your rights to any inheritance, and yes, even your apartment, which was technically a company property we'd been letting you use. You were never really a Sullivan anyway. At least now it's official. V. I called my father. Dad, Victoria. Madison, you signed the papers. We all saw it. You agreed to step away from family affairs. That's not what she said it was. Sweetheart, you've always been dramatic. Maybe this is for the best. You can focus on your art now. The line went dead. Line went. I tried my mother, Michael, even family friends. The story had already spread. Madison had voluntarily walked away from the family fortune to pursue her dreams. Some called me noble, others foolish. But everyone believed I'd chosen this. By nightfall, I was sitting in a rundown motel room, my entire life in 3 suitcases, wondering how I'd been so blind. The Sunset Motel charged by the week, cash only, no questions asked. The walls were water-stained, the carpet smelled like cigarettes and despair, but it was all I could afford with the $800 cash I'd had in my wallet. My phone became a weapon of torture. Every call I made was met with embarrassment or suspicion. Madison? I heard you gave up everything. So brave, or stupid. I can't decide. That was my college roommate. Sorry, we're not hiring right now. That was every design firm I contacted, though I suspected Victoria's reach had something to do with their sudden lack of openings. The worst part was the narrative she'd crafted. On social media, Victoria posted about supporting Madison's journey of self-discovery and respecting her choice to forge her own path. The comments praised her for being such a supportive sister. Meanwhile, Michael shared inspirational quotes about tough love and learning to stand on your own feet. 3 weeks into motel living, I'd hit absolute bottom. The free breakfast was stale cereal. Lunch was skipped. Dinner was ramen cooked in the coffee maker. My design portfolio collected dust because what was the point? Who would hire the family failure who'd walked away from millions? I lay on the lumpy bed, springs digging into my back, staring at a water stain shaped like a butterfly. Or maybe it was a moth. Everything beautiful looked corrupted in this place. That's when I heard it. A scraping sound from under the bed. Probably mice. But when I looked, using my phone's flashlight, I saw something else. Pushed far back against the wall was an old leather suitcase, covered in dust. And carved into its brass nameplate, barely visible beneath years of grime, was a name: Madison E. Sullivan. My hands trembled as I dragged the suitcase into the flickering fluorescent light. The brass nameplate was definitely engraved with my name, my full name, including the E for Eleanor that I'd been given after my grandmother. This wasn't a coincidence. The latches were stiff, but unlocked. Inside, vacuum-sealed plastic bags preserved the contents perfectly. The first thing I saw made me gasp. Stacks of $100 bills, neatly bundled. I counted with shaking fingers. $70,000 in cash. Beneath the money was an envelope, my name written in Grandma Eleanor's distinctive handwriting. My heart pounded as I opened it. My dearest Madison, if you're reading this, then Victoria and Michael have shown their true colors, and you've lost everything. I knew this day would come. I've watched them circle you like vultures for years, waiting for their chance. The $70,000 is just survival money, enough to keep you safe while you discover the truth. The real justice is waiting at this address. Harrison Blake, 1500 4th Avenue, Suite 2400, Seattle. Go to him immediately. Tell him Eleanor's contingency is in effect. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you while I was alive, but I've spent 5 years preparing for this moment. Trust Harrison, trust yourself, and remember, true wealth isn't always visible. All my love, Grandma Eleanor, P.S. They think they've won. Let them think that a little longer. I read the letter 3 times, then held it against my chest. She'd known. Somehow, she'd known exactly what would happen and had planned for it. But how did this suitcase get here, in this specific motel room? Then I remembered. I hadn't chosen this motel randomly. The manager had said they'd had a last-minute cancellation in this exact room. Someone had orchestrated this, Harrison Blake. Tomorrow, I'd finally learn what Grandma had been preparing. Harrison Blake's office occupied the entire 24th floor of a downtown high-rise. When I walked in clutching Grandma's letter, his secretary immediately stood. "Miss Sullivan? Mr. Blake has been expecting you." Harrison rose from behind his desk as I entered, his expression mixing relief with urgency. "Madison, I was beginning to worry you wouldn't find Eleanor's message. You knew about the suitcase. I placed it there myself, the day after the will reading. Your grandmother gave me very specific instructions." He gestured to a leather chair. "What I'm about to tell you will change everything." He pulled out a thick folder. "Your grandmother established a secret trust 5 years ago. $2 million in assets, plus Sullivan Interior Design, a company she built quietly over decades, now worth another $3 million. My mouth went dry. But the public will was a test. Eleanor knew Victoria and Michael would reveal themselves if they thought you got nothing. She documented everything, every slight, every manipulation, every time they undermined you. But she needed them to commit a serious crime to ensure they'd face real consequences. The loan document. Fraud. Victoria altered the paperwork after you signed. I have the original version you thought you were signing, and the fraudulent one she filed. It's enough for criminal charges." He leaned forward. "But Eleanor wanted more than legal justice. She wanted public vindication for you." He slid another document across the desk. "There's a condition. You have 6 months to land a design contract worth at least $500,000. You must announce it publicly at your parents' 40th anniversary party in front of their 150 guests. If you succeed, everything becomes yours. If you fail—" "Victoria and Michael get it all," I finished. "Your grandmother believed you could do this. She said you had talent they never recognized. The question is, do you believe it too? Can you imagine discovering your grandmother secretly prepared for your family's betrayal? If you've ever been the black sheep or felt unseen by your family, hit that like button. And if you want to know how I turned $70,000 into a complete reversal of fortune, make sure you're subscribed. The anniversary party scene coming up will leave you speechless." Let's continue with my journey from rock bottom to redemption. Harrison walked me through the terms like a general planning a battle. The contract must be legitimate. No friends doing favors. No shell companies. It needs to be notarized, publicly verifiable, and announced at the party with the client present to confirm. 6 months to build a business from nothing and land a $500,000 contract? I sank into the chair. That's impossible. Your grandmother didn't think so. She left you more than money. He handed me a leather portfolio. Client lists from Sullivan Interior Design's early days. Contact information for people who remember Eleanor fondly. And this. He pulled out a business card. Sophia Smith. She owns a boutique hotel chain. Eleanor designed her parents' first hotel 40 years ago. She's expecting your call. But I've never run a business. I don't even have a portfolio anymore. Yes, you do. Harrison opened another drawer. Eleanor had me collect your work over the years. Every sketch you threw away thinking it wasn't good enough. Every design Victoria mocked at dinner. They're all here, professionally photographed and bound. I flipped through the portfolio, seeing my work presented like it belonged in Architectural Digest. Designs I'd considered failures looked sophisticated, innovative. Your grandmother saw what your family refused to see, but Madison, Harrison's tone grew serious. Victoria and Michael will find out eventually. They'll try to sabotage you. Are you prepared for that? I thought about the motel room, the rejected cards, the humiliation. Then I thought about Grandma's letter. Let them think that a little longer. I'm not just prepared, I said, surprising myself with my steady voice. I'm motivated. They took everything from me based on a lie. I'll take it back with the truth. Harrison smiled. That's what Eleanor said you'd say. Shall we begin? The first month was brutal. I rented a tiny office in Pioneer Square with Grandma's money. One room, no view, but it had good light and professional address. Madison Sullivan Interiors went on the door in simple gold lettering. I worked 18-hour days. Morning was for cold calling potential clients from Eleanor's list. Afternoons for creating design proposals. Evenings for networking events where I'd nurse one drink all night to save money. Madison Sullivan? At a gallery opening, I turned to find Jennifer Walsh, one of Seattle's social fixtures. I heard you'd stepped away from the family business. I kept my voice steady. I've started my own firm, actually. Interior design. Her eyebrows rose. Really? After everything? Because of everything. I handed her my card. I'm finally doing what I was meant to do. Word traveled fast in Seattle's elite circles. Some were curious about the Sullivan who'd given up millions for her dreams. Others whispered about family drama. But a few actually looked at my portfolio. My first client was a coffee shop renovation, only $30,000, but the owner let me photograph everything. The second was a dental office, $50,000. Each project was a stepping stone, documented proof that I could deliver. I didn't contact my family. When mutual friends asked, I simply said, I'm focusing on my business. No bitterness, no drama, just professional distance. But late at night, working on proposals, I'd sometimes imagine their faces when they learned the truth. Victoria's shock, Michael's panic, my parents' confusion. The thought kept me going through the exhaustion. I won't let them win, became my mantra, whispered to the empty office at 2 a.m., surrounded by fabric samples and floor plans. 4 months left, I needed a miracle. Sophia Smith walked into my tiny office like she owned the world, which, in a way, she did. Her hotel chain, Cascade Luxury Hotels, had properties from Seattle to San Diego. She was younger than I expected, maybe mid-30s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Your grandmother designed my parents' first hotel in 1982, she said, examining my portfolio. They never forgot her kindness when they were just immigrants with big dreams. She stopped at a design I'd created for a hypothetical boutique hotel. This is what I'm looking for. Modern but warm, sophisticated but welcoming. That's just a concept piece. I'm renovating the Cascade downtown Seattle. 40 rooms, lobby, restaurant. Budget is $100,000 for the design phase. She looked up. Interested? My heart raced, but I kept my voice level. Very interested. Good. But Madison, I should tell you, your sister called me last week. My stomach dropped. She warned me about you, said you were unstable, that you'd abandoned your family, that you couldn't be trusted with serious projects. Sophia's smile was sharp. She seemed very concerned about my business decisions. I understand if that changes things. It does change things. She pulled out her phone, showing me an email thread. I did some research, talked to your previous clients, checked your references, and you know what I found? Every single person said you were professional, talented, and trustworthy. But Victoria? Well, let's just say her reputation in certain circles isn't what she thinks it is. She stood. I invest in talent, not last names. Send me a proposal by Friday. If it's as good as your portfolio suggests, we'll sign the contract Monday. At the door, she paused. Oh, and Madison, I have friends with bigger projects, much bigger. Deliver on this and we'll talk. The cease and desist letter arrived by courier on Tuesday morning, printed on Sullivan real estate letterhead. Victoria's power play was predictable but still infuriating. You are hereby ordered to stop using the Sullivan name in any business capacity, as it creates confusion with our established brand and constitutes trademark infringement. My phone rang before I finished reading. Victoria. Hello, sister. Her voice dripped false concern. I heard you've been playing businesswoman. I'm not playing anything. Madison, you're embarrassing the family name. Using our reputation to get clients? That's desperate, even for you. I'm using my own name. Last I checked, I'm still a Sullivan. Legally, yes, but we both know you signed away any real claim to that name. I could hear her smile. I'm trying to protect you. Shut down this little hobby before you humiliate yourself further. Is that a threat? It's advice. Sophia Smith called me back, wanted to verify some things about your background. I told her the truth, that you're unstable, unreliable, and have a history of not finishing what you start. My grip tightened on the phone, but I kept my voice steady. Did you also tell her about the time you took credit for my design work in college? Or when you sabotaged my internship at Gensler? Silence. Then, nobody believes the family failure, Madison. Give up now, and I might even throw you some freelance work. Minimum wage, of course. Thanks for the motivation, Victoria. I work better when someone says I can't do something. You have no idea what you're up against. Neither do you. I hung up and immediately called Harrison. Victoria's trying to interfere. Can she actually stop me from using my own name? No, he said. But document everything. We'll need it later. Sophia called the next morning. Your proposal exceeded expectations. Let's meet for lunch to discuss details. At the restaurant, she wasn't alone. 3 other women sat at the table, each radiating quiet power. Madison, meet my investment group. Rebecca owns the Pacific Northwest's largest event planning company. Linda runs a commercial real estate firm. And Patricia heads a tech startup incubator. I sat down carefully, sensing this was more than a lunch meeting. We call ourselves the Phoenix Group, Sophia explained. Women who've risen from difficult circumstances. We've all dealt with family betrayal, professional sabotage, being underestimated. Rebecca leaned forward. Sophia shared your story. Not the details, but enough. We've been watching Victoria Sullivan for years. She destroyed my first business, Linda added quietly. Spread rumors about financial instability until banks pulled my credit lines. Took me 5 years to recover. She blocked my permits for 6 months with false complaints, Patricia said. Cost me $1 million in delays. I looked around the table. So this is about revenge? No, Sophia said firmly. This is about justice and opportunity. Victoria created enemies she never bothered to remember, but we remember everything. She pulled out a folder. The Cascade contract is yours, $100,000, as discussed. But Rebecca needs her new venue designed. Linda has 3 office buildings requiring renovation. Patricia's expanding to a new campus. My heart stopped. That's about $500,000 in potential contracts, all legitimate, all needed, all based on your talent. Sophia smiled. But we wanted to meet you first. Make sure you're not just talented, but tough enough to handle what's coming. Victoria will escalate when she finds out, Rebecca warned. Let her, I said, surprising myself with my calm. I've already lost everything once. Now I have nothing left to lose and everything to gain. That's what we wanted to hear, Sophia said. Let's give them something to really worry about. With 2 weeks until my parents' anniversary party, I had $400,000 in signed contracts. So close, yet still $100,000 short of Grandma's requirement. The Phoenix Group had delivered on their promises, but I needed one more project. Victoria's sabotage attempts had intensified. She'd called every vendor I worked with, warning them about my instability. She'd filed complaints with the city about my business license. She'd even had Michael call my clients as a concerned family member. "Just accept you're not meant for this," Michael had said in his voicemail. "Victoria's offering you an out. Take it before the party. Save yourself the humiliation." But their desperation told me something important. They were scared. Harrison called with an update. "Your parents sent the party invitation. Black tie, Fairmont Olympic Hotel, 150 guests including the mayor and every major business leader in Seattle." "Perfect audience for a public announcement," I said. "Or a public failure." "Madison, are you prepared for that possibility?" I looked at my wall of contracts, so close to the goal. "I've been preparing for this my whole life. I just didn't know it." That evening, Sophia texted, "Emergency, call me." My stomach dropped. Had Victoria gotten to her? "Madison, I have someone you need to meet, tonight. Can you come to the Cascade?" I arrived to find Sophia with an older Japanese man in an expensive suit. "This is Takeshi Yamamoto. He owns a resort chain in Japan. He's been looking for an American designer for his Seattle flagship." Mr. Yamamoto studied my portfolio in silence for 20 minutes. Finally, he spoke. "Your work reminds me of your grandmother's. She designed my father's first restaurant in 1975. Another connection to Eleanor. How many lives had she touched?" "The budget is $200,000. Can you start immediately?" I nearly cried. "Yes, absolutely yes." The contract signing took place at Harrison's office. Mr. Yamamoto insisted on proper documentation, notarized, witnessed, and filed with the state. Exactly $500,000 for the Yamamoto Seattle Resort design, completion in 18 months. "Your grandmother would be proud," Mr. Yamamoto said, shaking my hand. "She believed in investing in people, not just projects. I honor her memory by investing in you." Harrison had prepared everything for the announcement. "The contract is dated today, 3 days before the party. Completely legitimate, fully verified. Victoria can't claim any impropriety." Sophia and the Phoenix Group were there too. "We'll all be at the party," Rebecca promised. "Your moment of truth will have plenty of witnesses." "Including us," Linda added. "Victoria needs to see the enemies she created." That night, alone in my office, I allowed myself 5 minutes of celebration. Then I got back to work. The announcement was just the beginning. I had a resort to design, a business to run, and a life to build. My phone buzzed. An unknown number, but I recognized Michael's burner phone pattern. "Madison, please. Victoria doesn't know I'm calling. Just be careful at the party. She's planning something." "Why do you care?" "Because I know what we did was wrong. I can't undo it, but just watch yourself." The line went dead. Michael's conscience, arriving too late to matter, but just in time to confirm my suspicions. Victoria wouldn't go down without a fight. Harrison texted, "All documents filed with the court. The trust is yours the moment you announce at the party. Eleanor's contingency is complete." I looked at the photo on my desk. Grandma Eleanor and me at my college graduation, the only family member who'd attended. "Almost there, Grandma," I whispered. "Almost there." The night before the party, I couldn't sleep. My presentation was perfect. A simple announcement of my business success and the contract. Nothing more. Harrison had coached me on the legal language. The Phoenix Group had helped me choose the right dress. Professional but stunning. A deep emerald that Eleanor would have loved. At 2 a.m., I walked through my tiny office one more time. The walls were covered with completed projects, thank you notes from clients, and in the center, the framed Yamamoto contract. 6 months ago, I'd been in a motel room with nothing. Tomorrow, I'd reclaim everything. My phone lit up with messages of support. Sophia, we've got your back. Harrison, documents ready, security briefed. Even Mr. Yamamoto, honor and truth prevail. But it was the handwritten note slipped under my door that stopped me cold. Mom's handwriting. Madison, I know you're planning something for tomorrow. Whatever happened between you and your siblings, please don't ruin our anniversary. We've worked 40 years for this moment. Mom. No, I love you. No concern for what I'd been through, just worry about appearances. I thought about responding, then decided silence was better. Tomorrow they'd understand everything. I pulled out Eleanor's letter one more time. True wealth isn't always visible. She hadn't meant money. She'd meant integrity, talent, perseverance. The things they'd never seen in me because they were too busy looking at surfaces. My dress hung on the back of the door like armor. My grandmother's pearl necklace, the one item I'd kept hidden from Victoria, lay in its box ready for battle. Whatever happens, I said to Eleanor's photo, I did it my way, with truth, not lies, with talent, not manipulation. Tomorrow would change everything. I was ready. The Fairmont Olympic Hotel ballroom glittered with Seattle's elite. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light over 150 guests in designer gowns and custom tuxedos. I paused at the entrance, taking in the scene I'd been excluded from for so long. Madison? The photographer hired for the event did a double take. Madison Sullivan? I walked past him without answering, my emerald dress catching the light. Heads turned, whispers followed. The family failure had arrived. Victoria stood near the entrance greeting guests, her silver dress screaming money and power. She saw me, and her smile froze. What are you doing here? Attending my parents' anniversary party. I was invited. You weren't supposed to. She caught herself aware of the watching crowd. How lovely you could make it. Michael appeared at her shoulder, his face pale. He'd tried to warn me, but he still stood with her. Some things never change. Madison! My mother's voice carried across the room. She hurried over, my father close behind. You came. Of course I came. My father frowned at my dress, my grandmother's pearls. You look different. Successful, I corrected. The word you're looking for is successful. Before they could respond, Sophia Smith entered with the Phoenix Group. Then Harrison Blake. Then Mr. Yamamoto. Each nodded to me as they found their tables. Why are all these people acknowledging you? Victoria hissed. You'll find out during the speeches. The mayor was giving a toast. Then the business council president. Then, according to the program, family remarks. Victoria's name was listed. Mine wasn't, but that was about to change. Harrison had already spoken to the MC. When Victoria finished her speech about family legacy and success, I would have my moment. The truth would finally have its day. Victoria's speech was perfect poison wrapped in silk. She spoke about family unity, Sullivan Real Estate's legacy, and the importance of knowing one's place in the family structure. Several pointed looks at my table made her meaning clear. And so, she concluded, here's to 40 more years of Sullivan success, guided by those who truly understand what it means to be a Sullivan. Applause filled the room. Then the MC spoke. We have one more family speaker, Madison Sullivan. Victoria's face went white. She's not on the program. But I was already walking to the stage, my heels clicking against the marble floor. The room fell silent. Good evening. I'm Madison Sullivan, the youngest daughter. Some of you know me as the artistic one who walked away from the family business. I'm here to tell you the truth about that story. Victoria started toward the stage, but Harrison stood, blocking her path subtly. 6 months ago, my siblings convinced me to sign what they called an emergency loan document to save the company. It was actually a fraudulent waiver of all my inheritance rights. They stole my trust fund, my home, and tried to steal my future. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The mayor leaned forward. business leaders exchanged glances. But my grandmother, Eleanor Sullivan, knew this would happen. I pulled out the notarized contract. She left me a separate inheritance with one condition, that I prove my worth by building my own success. Tonight, I'm announcing that Madison Sullivan Interiors has signed a $500,000 contract with Yamamoto International Resorts. Mr. Yamamoto stood. I confirm this contract is real and binding. Miss Sullivan earned this through talent and professionalism. This is ridiculous, Victoria shouted from the floor. Security! There's more, I continued calmly. Mr. Blake has documentation of the fraud my siblings committed, the real emergency loan document, and the forgery filed with the state. Harrison held up both documents. I've already filed charges with the district attorney. Michael's face crumpled. Several guests pulled out phones, recording everything. I'm not here to destroy anyone, I said, looking directly at my parents' shocked faces. I'm here to honor my grandmother's true wishes, that success be earned, not stolen, that family means support, not sabotage, and that true wealth isn't always visible. Sometimes it's the integrity to stand up and tell the truth. You ungrateful! Victoria lunged toward the stage, but Sophia Smith and Rebecca Smith stood, forming a barrier with the other Phoenix Group members. I think we've heard enough, the mayor said loudly. Miss Sullivan, congratulations on your business success. The applause started slowly, then built to thunder. But I only cared about one face in the crowd, my mother's, finally seeing me for who I really was. Victoria's desperation transformed her into someone I didn't recognize. She grabbed the microphone from the MC's table. She's lying. Madison forged those documents. She's always been unstable. Ask anyone. Then explain this, Harrison said, connecting his laptop to the ballroom's projection system. Suddenly, Grandma Eleanor's face filled the screen. The video was dated 1 week before her death. If you're watching this, Eleanor's recorded voice said, then my granddaughter Madison has met my conditions, and my other grandchildren have shown their true nature. The room was transfixed. I've watched Victoria and Michael manipulate and undermine Madison for years. I documented everything. The screen showed recordings of family dinners, Victoria taking credit for Madison's work, Michael laughing about keeping Madison in her place. I knew they would try to destroy her after my death, so I prepared a test. The public will was fake. The real inheritance was always meant for Madison, but only if she could prove herself without their interference. Victoria dropped the microphone. It hit the floor with a shriek of feedback. I have recordings of Victoria planning to steal Madison's trust fund from 3 years ago, Eleanor continued, Michael agreeing to forge documents, even their attempts to turn Robert and Patricia against their own daughter. The video showed Victoria in her office. Madison's too stupid to read the fine print. We'll have everything by year's end. That's taken out of context, Victoria stammered. Is this out of context too? Harrison clicked to another video. Victoria and Michael in a restaurant, toasting. To the family fortune, finally free of the artistic burden, Victoria said on screen, clinking glasses with Michael. The ballroom erupted. Guests were recording, posting, sharing. Victoria's carefully constructed image crumbled in real time. I knew you'd try to destroy her, Eleanor's voice concluded, but I also knew Madison had something you never did. Genuine talent and integrity. This moment, when the truth finally comes out in front of everyone who matters, this is what justice looks like. If you've ever dreamed of the day when those who wronged you face consequences, give this video a thumbs up. And remember, the best revenge isn't destruction, it's success. Subscribe if you haven't already. Now, let's see how this family reckoning concludes. My parents stood frozen as the reality sank in. My mother was the first to move, walking slowly toward Victoria with an expression I'd never seen before, pure disappointment. How could you do this to your sister? Her voice carried across the silent ballroom. Mom, she's twisting everything. We saw the videos, Victoria. We heard your own words. My father's voice was hollow. You used us, manipulated us against our own daughter. You always favored her anyway, Victoria snapped, her composure finally shattering. Perfect Victoria, brilliant Victoria, successful Victoria. I earned my position. By destroying your sister? My mother turned to me, tears streaming. Madison, we didn't know. You didn't want to know, I said quietly. Every time I tried to tell you something was wrong, you chose to believe them. The business partners were already distancing themselves. I heard fragments. Can't trust someone who'd do that to family. If she'd steal from her sister. Sullivan Real Estate is finished. Robert Smith, one of Dad's oldest partners, stood up. Robert, Patricia, I'm sorry, but Smith Industries will be withdrawing from all Sullivan Real Estate projects immediately. Robert, wait, my father started. No. I built my business on family values, real values, not this. He looked at me. Miss Sullivan, Madison Sullivan Interiors has my full support. One by one, other partners stood. Some left immediately. Others approached me with business cards. The empire my father built over 40 years was crumbling in 40 minutes. Michael hadn't moved from his spot, staring at the floor. I tried to warn you, he whispered to Victoria. I told you this would happen. Shut up, Victoria screamed. You were part of this. You agreed to everything. The family unity she had preached about was finally exposed for what it really was, a carefully constructed lie. Michael's breakdown was sudden and complete. I can't do this anymore, Victoria. His voice cracked as he faced the crowd. She's right. We did it all. Every word Madison said is true. Michael, shut your mouth! Victoria grabbed his arm. He shook her off. No, I'm done being your puppet. You want to know the truth? We've been planning this for 3 years. Victoria said Madison didn't deserve anything because she wasn't real family material. The crowd leaned in, phones still recording. We didn't just steal from Madison. Victoria's been skimming from the company for years. False invoices, shell companies, inflated contracts, I have the records. You're destroying everything, Victoria shrieked. You destroyed everything the moment you decided greed was more important than family. Michael pulled out his phone. I've been documenting everything, Victoria. Every illegal transaction, every forged document. Insurance, you called it. Well, now it's evidence. Harrison stepped forward. Mr. Sullivan, I suggest you share that information with the district attorney. I already did, this morning. Michael looked at me. Madison, I'm sorry. I knew it was wrong, but I was too weak to stop it. Too afraid of being cut out like you were. At least you're admitting it now, I said. There's more, Michael continued, his voice stronger. The Riverside development crisis? It was fake. We were never in financial trouble. Victoria created the whole scenario to trick Madison into signing those papers. The final piece of the puzzle. Several investors who'd been involved in Riverside looked furious. We were told there was an emergency, one said. We released emergency funds based on fraudulent information? I believe that's called wire fraud, Harrison noted calmly. Victoria's silver dress might as well have been an orange jumpsuit. Her empire built on lies had collapsed completely. The business fallout was swift and merciless. Within minutes, phones were buzzing with calls and texts. The Seattle business community was small, and news traveled at the speed of scandal. Thomas Mitchell, president of the Business Council, stood up. In light of tonight's revelations, I move to suspend Sullivan Real Estate's membership pending investigation. Seconded, 3 voices called out simultaneously. All in favor? Every hand in the room went up except my parents. Sophia Smith approached the microphone. Cascade Hotels will be transferring all current contracts from Sullivan Real Estate to Madison Sullivan Interiors, effective immediately. Pacific Events will do the same, Rebecca added. Yamamoto International extends Madison Sullivan full partnership status, Mr. Yamamoto announced. We invest in integrity. Victoria watched her world evaporate. You can't do this. We have contracts. With morality clauses, Thomas Mitchell replied. Fraud voids everything. My father aged 10 years in 10 minutes. 40 years. I built this company for 40 years. And your daughter destroyed it in one night? Linda from the Phoenix Group said. Though really, the destruction started the day you chose favorites among your children. The mayor stood to leave, stopping at my table. Miss Sullivan, the city is always looking for talented designers for public projects. Please have your office call mine. As the room emptied, investors and business leaders lined up to shake my hand, offer support, exchange cards. The same people who'd ignored me for years now saw me clearly. But the sweetest moment was when Jennifer Walsh, the social fixture who'd questioned me months ago, approached. Madison, I owe you an apology and a contract. I'm renovating my estate. Would Madison Sullivan Interiors be interested? Victoria stood alone in her silver dress, watching her former allies abandon her one by one. As the ballroom emptied, I could have gloated. I could have twisted the knife. Instead, I walked to the microphone one last time. I want to be clear about something, I said to the remaining guests. I'm not here to destroy anyone, just to claim what's mine and set the record straight. Victoria laughed bitterly. So noble, after you've ruined everything. I didn't ruin anything. You did that yourself when you chose greed over family. I turned to my parents. Mom, Dad, I'm not going to punish you for being manipulated. But I also can't pretend nothing happened. Madison, please, my mother started. I'll always be your daughter, but I won't be the family scapegoat anymore. I've built something real, something earned, not stolen, and I'm going to keep building it, with or without your approval. I looked at Michael. Thank you for finally telling the truth. It doesn't erase what you did, but it's a start. Then Victoria. I should hate you, but I don't. I pity you. You had everything. Talent, opportunities, parents who adored you. But it was never enough. You needed to take what was mine too. Spare me the sanctimony. I'm not done. Grandma left you $100,000 and properties worth millions. You could have been set for life, but you wanted it all. And now you have nothing. Harrison stepped forward. Actually, Miss Madison Sullivan, you now have everything. The trust conditions have been met. $2 million and Sullivan Interior Design are officially yours. I nodded, then faced the room one last time. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for justice. There's a difference. Justice means consequences for actions. It means truth over lies. And sometimes it means walking away from toxic people, even if they're family. Especially if they're family. The next morning, Harrison's conference room felt different. The papers spread across the table weren't weapons anymore. They were freedom. The trust transfers are complete, Harrison said. $2 million in liquid assets, the design company, and all associated properties are now in your name. What about Victoria and Michael? Michael's cooperation with the DA earned him a plea deal. Probation, restitution, and community service. He'll avoid jail time. And Victoria? She's facing multiple charges. Wire fraud, forgery, conspiracy. The FBI's now involved because of the interstate business implications. She's looking at serious time. I felt no satisfaction, just emptiness. What about the money she stole from me originally? Frozen assets will be liquidated to pay restitution. You'll receive your original trust fund plus damages, probably another $500,000. And my parents' company? Harrison's expression softened. Bankruptcy within 6 months, most likely. They're personally protected, but Sullivan Real Estate is finished. A knock interrupted us. Harrison's assistant entered. There's a Patricia Sullivan here to see Madison. My mother looked older, smaller, sitting across from me. The house is so quiet, she said. Victoria's with her lawyers. Michael moved out. Your father's in his office, staring at nothing. I'm sorry it came to this. Are you? Really? Yes. I wanted accountability, not destruction. But Victoria chose the nuclear option. She pulled out an envelope. Eleanor left this for you. I was supposed to give it to you after everything resolved. Inside was a single paragraph in Grandma's handwriting. My darling Madison, if you're reading this, you've won. Not the money. That was always yours. You've won your freedom from their limitations. Build something beautiful. Love, Grandma. She knew, my mother whispered. She knew everything and planned it all. She knew who we really were, I corrected. The question is, do you know now? 2 weeks after the party, my parents invited me to lunch. We met at a neutral location, a quiet restaurant downtown, not the family home that would soon be sold. We didn't know, my father started. About Victoria, about what she was planning. You didn't want to know, I said gently but firmly. Every time I came to you with concerns, you dismissed them. We thought you were being dramatic, my mother admitted. Victoria was always so convincing. And I was always so easy to doubt. They couldn't deny it. 3 decades of preferential treatment couldn't be erased by one apologetic lunch. We want to make things right, my father said. We want our daughter back. I never left. You pushed me away. I set down my water glass. I forgive you, but our relationship has changed. I'm not the little girl begging for approval anymore. We could help with your business, my mother offered. Introduce you to people. My business is thriving on its own merit. That's the point. Then what do you want from us? My father asked, frustration creeping in. Nothing. That's what you never understood. I don't want anything from you except what you never gave. Respect for who I am, not who you wanted me to be. We're trying, Madison. I know, and I appreciate that. But trying doesn't erase 32 years of being treated as less than. I'll always love you as my parents, but I won't sacrifice my well-being for your comfort anymore. I stood to leave, then turned back. We can have a relationship, but on new terms, boundaries, respect, no comparisons, no guilt trips, no manipulation. Can you do that? Their silence was answer enough. Change would take time, if it came at all. Call me when you're ready for that, I said, and left. 6 months later, Madison Sullivan Interiors occupied the entire 5th floor of a building overlooking Pike Place Market. 20 employees, 3 major projects in development, and a waiting list of clients that would have made Victoria envious. The Yamamoto project just won the International Design Award, my assistant announced, placing the trophy on my desk. I smiled, thinking of how Grandma would have displayed it, prominently but tastefully. The office walls showcased completed projects, but also photos from my journey. The motel room key, framed. The first $30,000 contract. The Cascade Hotel renovation that started everything. Sophia stopped by that afternoon. The Phoenix Group is impressed. You've doubled projections. It helps when you're building something real, not stealing it. Speaking of which, did you hear? Victoria took a plea deal. 3 years, minimum security. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not anger. Victoria was a closed chapter. And Michael? Working as a bookkeeper for a non-profit, court-ordered, but he seems different, lighter. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Saw the award announcement. Proud of you. Small steps. That evening, I stood in my office as the sun set over Seattle. The city that had once felt hostile now felt like home. My home, built on my terms. Harrison called. Eleanor would be so proud. I know she is, I said, touching the pearl necklace I wore every day now. There's something else. She left one more surprise. Check your mail. The package contained a photo album, pictures of Grandma's designs from the 1970s and 80s. And on the last page, a photo of her at my age, standing in front of her first office. The address was familiar. I was working in the same building where Eleanor Sullivan had started her own quiet empire 50 years ago, full circle. The news coverage of Victoria's sentencing was brutal but brief. Former real estate executive sentenced to 3 years for fraud made the business section, not the front page. She'd wanted fame. She got infamy. Michael sent me the details. She has to pay $2.3 million in restitution. Everything she owns is being liquidated. The house, the cars, the art collection she loved more than people. How are you doing? I asked him. Better. Therapy helps. Turns out following Victoria for 36 years was its own kind of prison. He was working at a homeless shelter now, managing their books. Court-ordered at first, but he'd stayed voluntarily. She still blames you, he added. Says you orchestrated everything. She orchestrated everything. I just refused to be her victim. The other inmates apparently find her exhausting. She tried to run a power play in the minimum security facility. It didn't go well. I thought about visiting her, offering forgiveness, closure, something. But Harrison advised against it. Some people see kindness as weakness. Victoria's one of them. He was right. The sister I'd once loved, who'd taught me to ride a bike and braided my hair for school photos, had been consumed by greed so completely that nothing remained of that person. Her former friends had scattered. Her ex-husband, who'd divorced her years ago, gave an interview about her patterns of manipulation. Even our parents had stopped visiting after she'd screamed at them for choosing Madison's side. She'd built her entire identity on being superior to me. Now I was free and successful, while she counted days in a federal facility. She got exactly what she deserved, one of her former clients told a reporter. No, she got what she chose. Every lie, every manipulation, every cruel act had been a choice. The consequences were just the bill coming due. I stood at Grandma Eleanor's grave on the 3rd anniversary of her death. The marble headstone was simple. Eleanor Sullivan, beloved mother and grandmother, true wealth is invisible. You knew everything, I said to the stone. Every move they'd make, every lie they'd tell. You prepared me for a war I didn't know was coming. I placed white roses, her favorites, against the headstone. The business is thriving. 50 employees now. We just landed the contract for the new children's hospital. You would have loved that. Beauty serving purpose. The wind rustled through the cemetery trees, and for a moment I could almost hear her voice. I knew you had it in you, darling. Thank you for believing in me when no one else did, for seeing potential where others saw disappointment, for teaching me that real power isn't inherited, it's earned. I pulled out my phone and showed the headstone a photo, laughing at myself but doing it anyway. That's the new office. Same building where you started. I found your old sketches in the basement storage. We're displaying them in the lobby. A text interrupted my visit. Sophia. Japanese delegation wants to discuss the Tokyo project. You free? Business called, as it always did now. But it was my business, my success, my future. I forgive them all, I told Eleanor's grave. Victoria, Michael, Mom, Dad. Not for them, but for me. Carrying anger would only weigh me down, and I have too far to go. I touched the headstone one last time. I'll make you proud, I promise. Walking back to my car, I felt light, free. The girl who'd signed those papers in desperation was gone. In her place stood a woman who'd learned that sometimes the greatest revenge is simply living well. And I was living very well indeed. So that's my story. From family scapegoat to successful CEO. From betrayal to triumph. From nothing to everything. But more importantly, from invisible to undeniable. If you're watching this and you're the black sheep of your family, the one who never quite fits, the one whose dreams are dismissed as impractical, I see you. I was you. They'll tell you you're not enough. Too sensitive, too artistic, too different. They'll make you feel guilty for not conforming to their vision of success. They'll use your love for them as a weapon against you. But here's what I learned. Setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's necessary. Demanding respect isn't selfish, it's self-preservation. And sometimes, the family you choose is worth more than the family you're born into. Success really is the best revenge, but not for the reason you think. It's not about showing them up or proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. Every small win, every client who believes in you, every project you complete, that's you building evidence that you were valuable all along. Your worth isn't determined by family approval. Read that again. Your worth comes from within, from your integrity, your talent, your perseverance. If someone in your family is toxic, even if it's everyone, you have permission to walk away. Blood doesn't give anyone the right to destroy you. Love doesn't mean accepting abuse. Build your own table instead of begging for a seat at theirs. Create your own definition of success. And when you make it, and you will make it, don't look back in anger. Look forward in power. Your worth isn't determined by their acceptance. It never was. You are enough. You always were. If Madison's story resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear that they're not alone. Have you experienced family betrayal or been the black sheep? Leave a comment below. I read every single one. And if you want more stories about justice, boundaries, and triumph over family drama, hit subscribe and the notification bell. Remember, your worth comes from within, not from their approval.